There seems to be an awful lot of sad stories in the news today, and there are thousands missing. Does anybody care? We built a channel where we talk about those faces. Talking news with Debbie. Cassie Barnes has still not been found, and it's been 2 years since her case first hit the spotlight. Breaking. Chattanooga and Middle Valley both behind bars. Sarah Galloway was found. She wasn't found alive. What happened to Sarah Galloway?
It's too heartbreaking to share.
Children are still missing. Children like Dorsey. You're a she. You just got away with it. Welcome to Talking News. Hello everyone. My name is Debbie. We use big stories to push little faces.
Hello everyone, welcome to Chasing a Murderer Talking News. Before we get started, I want to ask you guys to please take a moment to subscribe, like. Don't forget to also hit the notification bell if you would like notifications whenever we have new uploads. So today we're doing a talking news segment, guys, and I have been working on this really for a week straight. I put a lot of time and effort into this, and I decided that I'm not going to do any more after today. This is attached to the Dylan Rounds case. A very sad story coming out of actually the border of Nevada and Utah, which is what has really caused these kind of complications that the family's running into that we're going to talk about a little bit. So it's Montello, Nevada. Very, very small town. It's like an old ghost town that somebody's tried to keep alive. And when it comes to residents, those numbers actually change. So I'm going to have to say I believe that the numbers that dwell in this town is about 200 to 350. And then the other town, which is an old abandoned railroad town, Lucin, Utah. I think there's about, I'm going to guess, about 12 residents that actually live out there. Definitely not much going on in that area. It's in like a desert area. In my opinion, a strange place to attempt farming, which Dylan Rounds was attempting to do with this piece of property. Dylan Rounds, who is only 19 years old. Now, he has been living on this piece of property in Lucin, Utah for about 3 years, so you do the math. He's around 16, 17 years old when he takes on the responsibility of an adult and moves onto this huge mass in the middle of nowhere to take on planting crops. I think it's feed grain that he wants to plant. But two of the 3 years, he didn't really produce anything. But he was pretty excited that he was going to start producing something this year. In fact, he planted this year. So I find that also kind of, interesting. Dylan Rounds disappeared. And we're going to go into those details. I just want to give you an idea for those of you that are new to this story, why we're covering this story. He just disappeared. No sign, no warning, nothing. And the parents were very concerned about Dylan's whereabouts when they tried to locate him, which they didn't. They reached out to search and rescue, police, and they felt like they weren't getting the help they needed from the police. So they reached out through social media to people like us, then also to media. And many, many, many YouTubers, which I'm completely proud of, reached out and immediately started to tell the story, And I can tell you right now that YouTube channels who cover true crime, they really do have a lot of push when it comes to reaching public with concerning stories these days. So let's talk about who Mom Candace Cooley and Justin Rounds say Dylan was as a child. On August 1st of 2002, a beautiful baby boy is born to a young mother and a young father, Candace Cooley and Justin Brown. Now, his parents will divorce when he hits 4 years old, so let's kind of go around that. He lives and grows up on an Idaho farm, and he kind of goes back and forth between his mom's and his father's. Some information says that he grew up mostly in his father's home, and he was actually raised a religious boy, their faith being Mormon. Dylan was very close with the men in his family, according to Candace. In fact, he would go out with his dad and his grandfather and work on the farm instead of hanging out at the house with mom. The guys would put him in a truck and let him nap as needed when he was just a toddler. Candace explains to a media source that Dylan would get upset if he couldn't go with the guys. She also told us that Dylan was an old soul and a young body. Growing up on the farm, he was given the opportunity to play sports, but Candace says he wasn't interested in that. He was just interested in farming. He loved nature. He loved to look at dandelions and weeds, play with the animals, play on the tractors. By the age of 10 years old, Dylan had grown his own crop of sweet corn, and he would collect it, then set up and sell it over by the overpass. To his mom, this was Dylan's passion. For Mother's Day, Dylan and his younger brother would plant a Mother's Day garden for her. And she said that she would want to try to help out. They were like, no, Mom. They kind of push away and just do it themselves. And as he grew older, he started hanging out with friends in the winter. They go snow skiing, snowmobiling, and spend a lot of their time just enjoying the outdoors. One of Dylan's best friends goes by JD, so just keep that in mind. And Dylan's hobbies were fishing, dirt biking, but they took the back seat to farming. That was his number one. His parents said this was his primary focus. And whenever you go to any story covering this case, you will find that the parents pushed the narrative that this kid from birth was destined to be a farmer. In fact, he learned to drive and operate a tractor before he even rode a bike. Like most parents, Dylan was growing up in his mid-teens. COVID approaches, and he contacts his parents, and he tells them, I don't know how he told them, other than he no longer wanted to go to school. He told them that he wanted to be a full-time farmer. The parents said that they weren't real happy about that, but they had to support him. I'm not sure if he ever earned his GED or what happened, but we do know he quit school. Justin, Dylan's father, tells Dateline later that his son Dylan had a lot of ambitions and a bright future ahead of him. And we learn also that Dylan's personality is he's quite headstrong, and I wonder where he gets that from. He's also quick to help people when they are in need, and he likes to stay in contact with family members at least every so often, even if it's not every single day. He would go days without talking to his mother or his father, but he might be in contact with Grandma. Candace, Dylan's mother, says that when she would talk to him on the phone, he would talk about farming or animals. That's about it. But I like to read comments and see what people think about the story they follow. And a lot of people have been wondering, why would a 16-year-old be living on a farm in the middle of nowhere in a camper all alone? And I'm going to share a few of those comments later on, if I don't forget. So just before all of this happens, Justin is actually got a new transmission for his truck around the winter of 2021 to 22. And based off of the information I can get right now, guys, because right now my information is a mess because it kept updating. So I might have, don't, if you see something that's not exactly correct, just put it in comments. On Justin's farm, he has a few farm hands or helpers. They go by Jim and Don. Candace says that Dylan wouldn't bring people back to his camp, and we'll call his farm a camp because it's basically he lived in an RV. But he was basically bringing people there to the camp to help him out at times. Now, there's a guy that goes by Don. I'm not going to put his picture or anything up here. He actually is friends with Dylan's grandfather, which I'm not going to mention his name either. And 3 weeks before Dylan goes missing, Dylan is actually washing his clothes in a bucket. And I guess he's getting tired of doing that. So he wants a washing machine and he gets one. And he goes to hook it up. What we're hearing is Don had a problem with Dylan spending time on, hooking up this washer instead of dealing with something to do with the farm. And they got in a little dispute about that. And of course they didn't part very well. 3 weeks later, May 25th, Dylan is driving in the middle of the desert, so in between Lucin and Montello, sorry guys. And a man runs out of nowhere there, barefooted, bloody. He appeared to be bruised, scratched up, and he was needing Dylan to give him a ride. He needed to charge his phone. He needed to use Dylan's phone. Not sure which one is true, but it's pretty close. Interestingly, he is barefooted, so remember that. We know that Dylan's boots go missing. I'm sorry, guys. I am so just tripping all over myself here. I'm trying to hurry and get the story out because I promised you I would get it out. Now, Dylan will later call his mother and tell her about this little meeting. This guy running out, bloodied up, needing a ride. But he fails to leave out a truth. The fact that he gave this guy a ride, so he lied to his mother. His mother says, well, he has pretty much a good reason to do so because if he told me the truth, he knows I'm going to lecture him, basically. So anyways, she says that Dylan calls her and says, you'll never believe what happened, Mom. This is something that she says Dylan does often when he calls her. He tells Candace that it appeared that this guy had been out there for days. He was bloody, scratched up. He tells Candace that he could hear Chase actually talking to his own father and told him he was looking for his kids and that he was picking potatoes with them. Well, his father says to Chase, your kids are here. Your pickup is here. We have been looking for you for days. So Dylan was probably correct that this guy had been out there for days. But we hear later, and I'm not sure about the sources on some of these guys. This whole case, it just doesn't make sense. Very sketchy people, very sketchy stuff. We hear that Dylan actually gives this guy a ride. But he tells Mom, no, that's not what happened. So, this is where I'm getting to some of my notes that I'm not sure if I have exactly correct. So just, let's hope they're right. So, it's on May 26th of 2022 that we know that Dylan uses his debit card at the Saddle Sore Bar and Cafe. And I have to switch environments here, guys. So this would be considered one of the last clues to know where Dylan was. And so guys, we're going to go into more, which is going to be even crazier on part 2. I'm going to have to do parts, guys. I'm really struggling to get anything out. But the story only gets more and more bizarre as we go. So real quick, they're putting out, for anyone that knows anything about this case, might be able to help the family anonymously. You can do this. this is a good thing. So if you know something about the Dylan Rounds case, go get this information, help this family, and do the right thing. I know a lot of people are scared to come forward because of all this audio and stuff coming out, but you don't even have to do it that way. You can just write it in a letter and just stick it under a door. You do not have to show your face or even use your voice. Somebody out there knows something, please find a way to get information to the family anonymously. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Love you guys so much. And thanks for your support, guys. I'm trying to get back. As y'all know, it's been a tough year for me. And so just be looking for part 2, hopefully sometime this evening or tomorrow. I'm going to have to bust it out fast. Love you guys. See you guys soon.